everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're getting a chance to sit down with Nathan Dos Santos, who's considered to be one of Canada's top black belt competitors on the international circuit. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notifications bell. We'll be setting up our giveaway very shortly, and all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment. We are powered by Spirit Leaf Waterdown, Canada's #1 spot for cannabis. If you're looking for Canada's premium cannabis stop, go to see Alex and his crew at 64 Hamilton Street North in Waterdown. They're the best in the business, and they'll get you set up. All you have to do is follow them and like our Instagram and their Instagram, and you'll save some money every time you shop there. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the episode.
Yeah, you got a nice setup there. Like, is that your place or?
Yeah. I live with my girlfriend. Thanks, man.
Nice. Is that your gaming chair?
Oh yeah.
That's a legit gaming chair too.
Yeah, it's a good one. I sit in it a lot. So,
is this your? Do you have a sponsorship to Secret Lab, or is this something that you're working on for the?
No codes there, man.
So do you get to stream online with Mr. Greg King all the time and talk shit with each other, or on that chair, or you just kind of just do your thing?
I wish, man. I haven't got to play with him. I do a bunch. I edit. I game. It's I invested in the chairs. I sit in it a lot. So.
Hey, you gotta be comfortable, man.
Yes.
Especially with everybody sitting in lockdown for the next
for real
long. So yeah, I got a cheap piece of shit little plastic chair, so I can't really complain.
We can't really say much. We're sponsored by IKEA right now, so
it's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
No,
they make good stuff.
Make good stuff, but we all pay for it, so it's not like they didn't buy it for us. All right. Well, Nathan, I want to thank you very much for jumping on the show today. Thank you for taking time. How have things been going so far?
Man, well, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it, guys. Well, so far, man, the lockdown's been like 9 months, so it's hard to. There's a lot of different phases that's been happening. But when things first shut down, we were kind of unsure. And then when the gyms opened up, I was able to teach a little bit. But as of now, luckily I got to go to Orlando for Masters Worlds. And I went 2 weeks early to train with the guys at Gracie's. Pat opened his doors for me and let me train there for 2 weeks before the tournament. So that was awesome, man, because in Orlando, they do not care. They're just living like normal, man, like freedom. Guns, freedom, and jiu-jitsu, really.
Guns, freedom, America. I was gonna ask you, like, what's that experience like? Because you're going from here. There's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of different things going on, and then you go to a place down there. It's like the total opposite. It's the Wild West. Like, what was that experience like going from here to down to old Florida?
Yeah, well, I think to start, like I got Corona. I got sick in September, I believe. I got it.
Okay.
And I just got it from a training partner who worked in like a public space, and he got it. He gave it to me. I mean, for the first couple of days, it was really bad. Like I was like fever, body aches and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I got better. So like for me being healthy, I mean, I was okay, like luckily. So I say that because going there, I wasn't super worried. Like I've had it before. And I don't know how it works with like immunity and stuff, but they're living like, they got masks, but it's kind of like a formality. They're going to restaurants. You can pretty much do whatever you want, and you can train, like people just train and they don't care. In the tournament, you have to wear the mask to get into the venue, but then right after that, like masks are off and people are just, living like normal. So it was just like, for lack of a better term, a breath of fresh air to go somewhere where they don't really care. But I just wanted to train, man. So that was my one goal. And I just did what I had to. And I know we have to do these things to like stay safe, but it was nice to just pretty much live like normal.
Yeah. So like when you look at like the venue, especially like obviously there's precautions in place and all that kind of jazz, like was it still busy? Were there still a lot of competition? Like was your bracket really big still, or were things starting to kind of like simmer down depending on?
Yeah, I think like the brackets were probably smaller. Actually, they definitely were. You saw guys like dropping out for whatever reason. They would give you a refund if it was any like for free, if it was anything related to COVID, they would just send you your money back. So guys were dropping out. But in the venue, you can only bring one guest or coach. Actually, each athlete can bring a coach. But you could literally just walk in through the side doors, or like, you know, it wasn't hard to get into. So like, they didn't really care. Like the venue staff was like walking around telling you put your mask on, but as soon as they walk away, like people were taking it off. And honestly, like personally, I wasn't concerned. I just wanted to compete and perform. And then afterwards, like I would worry about that. But like I said, it's more of a formality there. You wear it because you have to get in the door, and then no one cares after that.
Yeah. Was this your first like big tournament of 2020, or had you had a chance to compete before anything shut down before?
Yeah, man, I'm trying to remember. Man, it's been so long. I think I did the.
It has. I don't even.
Right.
We're coming up on a year.
I'm like, you know, like
on a year.
Earlier this year, like I was in another. It's like last year I was in another country, and then like, what's travel like? Like, what's it
for
like
real
on a plane?
Yeah. It's all a blur, but I think I did the Abu Dhabi, the AJP in Toronto. That might've been my last one.
Okay.
And then I had the trip to Abu Dhabi, but they postponed it. So it's coming up. It's supposed to be in February. We don't know if it's going to get postponed again. So I'm just kind of waiting. And then, yeah, I didn't compete until last month.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
So did it feel like trying to find a rhythm again, or was it something you were able to kind of like I felt normal getting back into that kind of circuit or that type of training again?
Well, training here has been tough, like hard training. Like you can get a few guys together, you can go to a basement, but like sometimes, you know, the space you need to like actually train hard and work the scrambles and work it has been tough. So like I wasn't able to train properly, which is another reason why, like when it came to going to Orlando, like George, my professor is just like, man, why don't you just go down there, talk to Pat and train? And that was the best thing I could have done. I wish I actually did it longer, maybe a month. So I did feel like kind of rusty. My cardio was bad, even though the matches were 6 minutes. It was tough, but I'm grateful I got to go there and at least get some hard training and leading up to the tournament. And things pretty much felt normal going into it.
Yeah. You mentioned something about like, you know, hey, like right now, like pretty much all gyms are shut down, but like, you know, some people are like kind of getting together and training. But like you also see like in Florida, like things are open, full guns blazing, no restrictions, no nothing. And you also have a pretty unique experience because you mentioned like, hey, I got COVID. I was pretty sick for a few days to a week or so, basically what you mentioned. Kind of like going forward, like what would you like to see even with like, you know, academies like, you know, like Toronto BJJ where you're at or other academies where number one, like how can you reopen and like, you know, try to keep everybody as safe as possible? And well, you can't really social distance and do jiu-jitsu. I think we can all agree on that. It's a pretty up close sport, but like what are some things that you would like to see kind of going into, you know, into the future for that?
Right. I think like when we were open, you remember that little period where we were able to like do a social distancing sort of style. No one at Toronto BJJ like got sick through like contact in the classes. Like I got it from Mosley, but that was outside of the gym. Like we were lifting weights together. So we had like the precautions that they told us to do were, I think, like not super hard, like how people come in, they sanitize, they find their space. And like working with a couple training partners and how we had it going was like a pretty good idea. Besides like the not being able to roll part, which is kind of bullshit. Like you can drill but can't roll. It didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense.
It doesn't really make sense because like if you're gonna drill with somebody and you're already like breathing on each other, and then like, well, you might as well roll. Like what's the point?
Yeah, that was a like a formality that you know people just didn't understand, or whoever made that rule didn't fully understand the sport. But if you could do those precautions and roll, I think we'd like be in the right direction to like having a safe training environment, and you can kind of keep people limited to like, even if you had like groups of 4, I think it would work. So when things do reopen, that's probably the move. I don't know if we're gonna have to do that drilling thing again, because I know most people were rolling. In our classes, we were pretty strict with it, but like you know, I think it's worse that people go underground training and you get a bunch of guys to like a basement and everyone's mixing it up and you don't even know some of the people. So I think it's much safer to do it like in an academy where you can keep track and you know exactly who's coming through the doors. I think that would be the move when we're able to reopen.
Yeah, I think you made a good point where, especially like when you talk about guys in basements and you don't know what's going on, or like it's like even basic like hygiene. Are they even cleaning mats? Are they doing all the other stuff right in their own house compared to like, you know, a facility that's going to have controlled spaces, airflow. Again, your training partners that you agree with to come in and all that kind of stuff. So I see what you're saying there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like when it comes to it can't be like Orlando. Like if you're trying to stay safe, I don't know about the vaccine stuff. You know, Orlando, Texas, whatever. They're just like it just doesn't even exist. It doesn't even cross your mind there. It's like completely normal once you walk in the doors. You know, which is great for jiu-jitsu, like for training. But I think if we had some precautions, like coming in with your mask, finding your space, getting with your partners, then I think that would definitely be doable.
Gotcha. What do you think, like in a perfect world? I always like to get everybody's opinion on it, especially like if the vaccine comes around, if people take it or not. Do you think things just go back to normal, or is it like kind of touch and go as we kind of go?
Right. I don't think it'll just like flip a switch and everything's back to normal. That doesn't seem realistic, but I think like slowly starting to open things up. We might have to do these precautions again, but I think like over time it can get back to normal, but not just like the vaccine's out and everything's green, good to go. So it'll definitely be a slow process for sure.
Yeah, I think even with a vaccine, I think COVID's not just going to like disappear. It's going to be a thing. I think it's going to be a thing for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also important to like, hey, you know, I would rather train in an environment that's a lot more controlled, such as like you go to like Toronto BJJ or like your local gym where you're training with the same people there and all these precautions are followed, versus going to like, you know, like a bolo basement and like hiding out underground and it looks like the Terminator and
exactly.
That's what I would kind of prefer to. That's the environment I would personally like train in, because honestly, like I think I can't confirm if I had COVID or not, because I had something very similar symptom wise, like the beginning of last year, like around this time. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that like whatever it was, and my wife got it too. And like she had like it was like bronchitis, but like difficulty breathing. But then she went to the doctor and she had to get like a breathing treatment. And they basically said like, this looks like a quote unquote really bad strain of flu.
Right.
But this was like late January last year, where like, you know, it was happening in Asia, but then like it wasn't really happening here. But then it was starting to kind of sort of happen here. It just wasn't really publicized or tested as much as it is now, where like you turn on the news or like, these are the numbers, this is this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever like get contacted at all, Nathan, for like the plasma research, or like, you know, or like because you have the antibodies, you've had a confirmed case, and so you know they were taking like plasma for actually like helping fight off infections and stuff like that? Did you hear about that at all?
No, that sounds cool.
Yeah, because that's the one where like people were actually have it, and then they were taking their strain of plasma to kind of like for research purposes, and especially if people have like COVID really bad, it was helping for like create antibodies or something. Like I was just curious to see if I know some people have had that, but I don't know how widespread it is. It's more if it's just in the hospital or like people who've been hospitalized, or if it's just for like everybody. There's a question. But so like, how did you kind of like get connected into like Toronto BJJ? Because is that the club that you've started with at Jiu-Jitsu, or do you kind of work from different clubs?
It is. Well, I started in karate when I was 8. And I live in Etobicoke, so that's kind of where I grew up. And I did that for like 12 years. And I got my black belt in karate, and it was kind of a mixed style where like we would see some jiu-jitsu, like Japanese jiu-jitsu. So like arm bars and kind of judo throws and stuff. But one day we had a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor come to our school, and he was a blue belt, and he started teaching classes and on Saturdays. So we started rolling with him. And a bunch of the guys from high school, we'd all come in because like that was a fun thing to do, is just roll. And then we started with him, and then I don't know how he ended up leaving, but my good friend Mike Z trained with me, and he moved to Toronto BJJ in high school, and he got like his blue, even purple belt before I even started. And when I finished high school, I really wanted to like compete in jiu-jitsu. So my instructor there, Jay, said, go to Toronto BJJ. And I was like, okay, Mike already trains there. It'll be perfect. So I went, and that was like in 2010. So I've been training like that guy taught me for a couple months, but I pretty much started at Toronto BJJ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mike,
and I would say like,
come on, man.
One thing about that. Yeah. Is like, Toronto BJJ is where I started. But like I said, I came into it already wanting to compete. So I competed like after a couple weeks. George was just like, there's a tournament coming up, like jump in. And I did it. And I think I won a match and then lost. And then my second tournament was the Abu Dhabi trials in Montreal, but it was like white and blue belts mixed.
Right in the fire.
Yeah, just right in. And then
hey, out there. Get out there, kid.
That's the George style. I was like, you're young, like you'll be all right. And Mike, like my good friends Mike and Tom, they all compete already. They're just like, just do it. So I jumped in. I think I beat a couple white belts. I lost to a blue belt. But anyway, like I just started competing right off the bat, and it was kind of pretty natural for me, especially competing in karate and stuff. And then when I was around like purple belt, I started doing like volunteer work with like Josh had a teens program like in high school, and I taught that for free. And then when a spot opened up at Toronto BJJ, I started teaching there too when I was around a purple belt, like 4 or 5 years in. And now I just teach and compete. That's pretty much like my goals, and haven't stopped for the past 6 years teaching and competing.
That's awesome.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to ask, like, so have you kind of made the switch to like teach, compete full time? Is that kind of like what you do?
Yeah, that's what I do full time. I have some work like around the gym as well, like behind the scenes stuff, like the media and some Hyperfly things, like working for them. And I'm also sponsored by them. So There's a few other things that I do in the background. So that keeps me busy throughout the day. It's not like, even though I am a full-time competitor and teacher, like I still got some other things to work on, which has also been great during this pandemic, because obviously I can't teach, but I have a few private students that I do that I've been working with, and we have our small group. And then I've been able to work, for like, we're doing some projects on like the online side, and I've been helping with all that. So at least it's a little bit of downtime to get all this work done, and it's kind of been good. And we kind of pivoted, so it worked out.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, right? That's what I wanted to see, because like there's some guys that like they just teach and that's it, and then kind of like their clubs have shut down and they haven't been able to do anything, right? And then there's other guys that compete but they have full-time jobs on the side, so that's kind of keeping income. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah, Orlando was actually sick because I just literally trained in the morning, like with the guys, and then I would just sleep because I didn't really have much to do, and then I'd come back, and it was like truly like 2 weeks where I trained again like a full-time competitor with like nothing to do. And that was actually kind of nice, because it's always like something working at the gym. It's not just like I'm resting throughout the day. So it was nice to just get like that. Like back when I was a purple belt, we used to do that a lot more before I had like all these jobs. So it was kind of nice.
It's a nice little break, going to throwback to like your earlier belt days where you just trained.
Just the grind. Yeah.
No responsibilities whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
What got you initially interested in competing in jiu-jitsu? Like, were you competitive in karate? Like, did you do like karate tournaments?
We did some, like it's not super competitive, and they had like a style of Japanese jiu-jitsu that was kind of competitive, but being like best friends with Mike and Thomas Beach at the time, like they were already established competitors and they were my close friends. So like it came really natural. Like we'd hang out and then Mike would be like, watch this Jorge Gracie match or watch this. And it just became normal. Like I started jiu-jitsu because it was fun to roll, and I kind of made that transition because it was fun to roll, but just hanging out with the group that I did, it was just like, they just like competing is just a part of them. And they kind of just passed that on to me.
So when you kind of like look at like whether it's competition footage, like who's the guy that you're really kind of, who you're looking at mostly? Which matches are you kind of like going to pull up?
I watch, man, I think like now, especially during the quarantine, I watch a lot of videos, a lot of instructionals. So I take bits and pieces from people. Like I used to be really into like the berimbolo game. So I'd watch the small guys. Mike Musumeci has crazy berimbolo details. So I'll watch them for that. And then when it comes to like, I am a medium heavy. So like I start to go to the heavier side. I watch like pretty much all the guys in my bracket that I fight against, like, you know, Lucas Barbosa. But you can take things from like heavier guys too, with like, you know, the guys who put the pressure. So I kind of watch them all, but I would say one of my favorites right now, I like Marigali's game, how he's like super long, collar and sleeve. You know, De La Riva X is really sick too. So like I'll watch how he sets it up against the best people. But I feel like there's no one guy in particular. I kind of take as much as I can from everybody.
Yeah. How about like matches that you've watched? Like, is there matches that have stood out to you? Like, because you've competed at Worlds and Pans a lot. Are there matches that you've seen live that are like maybe like higher belts that you watch, or you're like that are just etched in your mind? Because I have a couple that I watched at Worlds, and I'm like, these matches are unreal. Is there anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, well, man, Sunday at Worlds, like watching all the black belts, I want to be there. I want to compete on Sunday. That's a huge goal of mine. But compete, like watching those tournaments is so cool. And I think like one of the most memorable is when Buchecha fought Rodolfo, and that was like a crazy match. He ended up spinning to his back from like the single leg X from the top position. Like I saw that live, and it's like it was just so cool. And that was like probably the one that stands out the most, because like again, I watched a lot of Buchecha too and Rodolfo. So being able to just watch that match live in particular was probably the one that stands out the most.
There's some crazy matches. One that actually stood out to me, I think it was 2000. I think it was a blue belt. I think it was like 2013. It was actually Kaynan when he was a brown belt, when he was facing Jackson Sousa.
Okay, I don't even remember that match.
The reason why I remember it is because like Jackson Sousa was like the guy in Brazil at the time. Like he was the up and coming guy. Like he was the man at brown belt basically, but he couldn't get into North America to like fight the top like North American guys, like all the Americans. Yeah. Kaynan was the top guy in North America at the time. So it was like this huge like, you know, North America South America clash thing on top of it. And it was in the absolute, I think it was like the semifinals, and I remember there's like 12, 14 mats going because it's Worlds, and all the other matches are like, it's like black belt competitors, like all different weight classes are going. And then there's the brown belt absolute division. Everybody's watching that.
Okay. So
that's the one thing I remember. Cool. It's like nobody's paying attention to the black belts there. Everybody's watching the match. And like, people are like, bang. I thought people were going to be rioting. It's like,
right. That's sick.
That was one match that's definitely like stood out.
Man, how many times did we fight, Mike? How many times did we compete against each other?
Too many.
Too many, right?
Too many.
Blue and purple, we fought a lot, huh? I think. Yeah.
We've
some close matches.
We've had some close matches. We've unfortunately been stuck scissor banging with each other a little too much. For I think both of our likings.
Right. Yeah.
I go back. You know what? It's funny because I've actually showed like people like, oh, like they don't, at the time they didn't know what jiu-jitsu was, and then it's like, you know, like maybe I should show them a match, and it's like me versus Nathan Dos Santos. No, I'm not going to show them that.
Yeah.
It's like we're just like stuck dry humping in 50-50 for 50, like.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know any escapes back then. It was just hold and get on top, probably.
It's crazy at like that position has evolved so much that there's so many intricate. It's like you can use any position to stall. Like you can use any sort of lapel guard to stall. You can use closed guard to stall. But like 50-50, it's like at the time it was just kind of like, okay, well you're both kind of stuck here.
Yeah.
Pretend to footlock the person and like make faces. So like you can do that, or now there's like a lot more intricate setups to like you can like take the back, berimbolo, like you name it.
Yeah. Well, so even in nogi too with the heel hooking, that just like 50-50 is so much more deadlier when you have the heel hooks involved.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now, are you looking to compete more like no-gi, or are you sticking to gi? You've mostly done mostly gi tournaments, but like you train no-gi like here and there. Like, do you want to do both, or you you're like, hey, I'm just going to do, you know, gi tournaments, IBJJF. Like, where's kind of like your head at with that now? Now you're a black belt.
Yeah, I definitely want to do more no-gi. Like, we train it. It's just like we don't have as much classes. Like, it's just how it goes at our gym. Like, we just kind of focus on the gi. Like, I would definitely do more no-gi, and I would like to train for this new rule set because there's way more opportunities when it comes to like super fights and even now with the IBJJF, it's like, it was even though you won no-gi worlds, it was like, okay, it's no-gi worlds is not because there's a certain rule set. So man, I think I've only done like 2 no-gi tournaments in my life. It was no-gi pans and no-gi worlds. I had done those 2. So I just jumped right in. But I want to just, I definitely want to be more proficient at it. I've been studying a lot too, like the leg lock stuff. So I think it would translate well to my game. So I'm excited to try some no-gi and just jump in there and see what happens.
Yeah. Why do you think no-gi has evolved so much to where you're seeing, like, I know like Danaher and a lot of those guys have made it a lot more famous, but then like there's a lot more super fights in no-gi versus gi versus I would say like 5 years ago. Like,
yeah,
like I would say the popularity of no-gi's really gone, of no-gi jiu-jitsu's gone up huge, I would say the last few years versus gi.
For sure.
Why do you think that is?
Well, definitely, like you said, Danaher and those guys definitely had a huge part in it. But I think just from a spectator point of view, like if you just think of a bunch of bros watching jiu-jitsu, they'd much rather see them in like no-gi stuff. It's closer to MMA, I guess.
bunch of bros.
Yeah. You know, like guys
they don't want to see me and you scissor banging in the gi. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to put butts in the seats.
It's definitely cooler to watch, I guess, if you don't train jiu-jitsu. Just solely on how it looks, you know, like the Eddie Bravo, sort of these guys getting like these super fight cards, like getting it more mainstream. That's all no-gi. So I think it's a little bit closer to MMA. It's a little bit more accessible. It looks cooler. And then people are starting to learn the terminology because of MMA. So it's clear to see like these arm bars, these heel hooks. It's like, I think it's just more accessible in general. And the gi, just like to someone who doesn't know, just I could see it. It looks kind of stupid, you know, everyone wearing pajamas and grappling. So yeah, that's probably it.
So when you kind of see like different rule sets, like obviously with ADCC or even like SUG with the overtime rules, like the EBI style, what kind of rule sets are like, do you think is going to be the ones that are really going to take off? Is it going to be more that ADCC or like, you know, what's your favorite? It's a better question.
Man, I think like people want to see exciting matches like that. That's just it. So when they're short, I think like sometimes like Abu Dhabi, when they're short matches, you can get a lot of intensity and that's exciting. Like a 6-minute fight is often easier to watch. Like even if you guys have ever been on YouTube and you see a fight and it's like 14 minutes,
yeah,
kind of like,
just like, oh like, God,
no. Just skim through that YouTube, you know, just draw the line.
Yeah.
So like that is tough to watch. And you guys train, we all train, and like that's tough for us to watch. So I think like maybe shorter matches with you know, incentive to like get those points or get the win. People want to see an arm raise at the end of the day. It sucks when it's a draw. But then there's like guys like Gordon Ryan where they want the submission only and they want to go forever and get the submission. And I think like for high level matches that could work because someone's going to get a submission at the end. So personally, I like shorter matches because you can keep that intensity up and like go for the kill. 10 minutes, sometimes it's like a mutual understanding with you and your opponent. You guys are both going to rest. You just kind of sit there with the grips and you're tired, I'm tired. Let's reset in a minute. You know, but I would say shorter matches are more exciting.
5-minute rounds instead of one.
Yeah.
10-minute round.
Right.
But I think I agree because I think if you have shorter matches, like it doesn't have to necessarily be 6 minutes, but I think like 10 minutes or less, I think is kind of like a sweet spot for it, because I think beyond that, because I would say some of the worst matches I've ever seen were either where it's like, I think one match I referenced a long time ago, I think it was the second or third time, I think Rafa Mendes and Cabrera competed against each other at ADCC. But I remember, I think it was 2013. I think it was the third time because they fought in 2009, 11. Yeah, so 2013. It was basically those two guys, world-class jiu-jitsu practitioners, like can strangle me like 25 different ways. But they had maybe one of the worst like Division 7 wrestling matches I think I've ever seen in my entire life for like 45 minutes. Like I had to turn it off.
I remember that. Yeah.
But I think it was also like they were so equally skilled where it's like that's kind of where the strategy laid. But neither their wrestling at the time, the wrestling wasn't as developed as it is now. So like that was definitely like a glaring hole there. I think having like shorter matches, I think what you said, I agree with that. And I think just the rule set that promotes action as well. Like what are your thoughts? Like, you know, you compete in the IBJJF rule set a lot. You've probably been to a lot of, you like study the rules thoroughly. Like what are some rules or rule changes you would like to see, not just in the IBJJF, but in different rule sets altogether?
Man, one they do at in UAE that's I think is really good, and it's similar to IBJJF, but what they do is they call like a stalling, and then you have like 10 seconds to act, and if you don't act within those 10 seconds, then you actually get it. So it's like it's apparent to the competitor what's happening and everyone watching. So it's like an action call, and I think that's just so much easier for everyone to understand, because sometimes you'll get a stalling and it's just kind of out of the blue, or you don't feel like it was warranted for either you or the person who gets it. And it's kind of just up to the discretion of the ref. Like he has his imaginary timer, maybe he checks his watch, but I think like when it's apparent, like, hey, you're about to get a stalling, like action, and then you got to do something. I think that's a great rule to like just boost the pace, and they can call it very like pretty quickly. You know, if it takes 30 seconds to get a stalling call, they can start calling this action within like 20 seconds. Because then you have 10 seconds, right? And it kind of it forces you to do something. And it's not more like when people watch, it's not like the discretion of the ref. They're like, hey, action, or you're going to get a stalling. I think that was great. And it kept the action up for the match. That's one thing I would definitely change. One thing that I don't like that the UAE did is they took out grabbing the back of the pants, 4 fingers in the back of the pant grip.
Yes, they did.
Which is so powerful. They made it illegal. I don't know. People are like seeing a lot of butts in matches or something. I don't know what the solution is.
It's very haram in the UAE. I don't think they want to.
Right. Well, the women wear tights like a full body suit, so that doesn't happen. Like I don't know if we could have a singlet under or something, but like the back of the pant grip is so powerful, and they just made that illegal. I don't know if it's changed or it's going to change, but I think that was sort of in the wrong direction. In terms of
the pant grip is no good, but you can still grab the gi top or the belt behind, no problem.
Yeah, which is not as strong. Like the belt is good if it's tight, but the pants are so powerful.
You can't have your fingers hooked into the person's pants, like in like the waist, basically.
Yeah.
But like you can grab the pants a bunch of other different ways, but like you can't have your fingers inside.
Yeah, you can't grab it. That's a good grip though.
It's powerful, yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of annoying.
So obviously, like going to compete in like Abu Dhabi, like what type of experience is like that? Because we had Mike Sheehan on, he told us about his experience. We've had Janie on, we've had Patrick on. So like, what was your experience like?
Oh man, it's so cool because like, you get to see like a totally different side of the world, and they embrace jiu-jitsu there like wholeheartedly. Like once you get into the airport, you see like Rodolfo, and you see ads of jiu-jitsu like off the highway, you see the big stadium for jiu-jitsu, and it's just like, even though the place is so different, like jiu-jitsu just kind of brings everyone together, but they embrace it, and that's why it's so cool. And they treat you like professional athletes, from like the venue to the hotel to the transportation to the food. Like they take care of you in every way, and that's something that I've never experienced anywhere else in the world. And then of course you can go see like the different culture, and you can go to the, the biggest malls in the world and stuff. You can go to Dubai, but I think like for me, the way they embrace jiu-jitsu is like nothing else. And, I just felt like I felt professional there, and you feel like a professional athlete, and they take care of you.
What would you like to see change like locally, like not just in Canada, but even just like in Ontario, to kind of get, I guess, that experience of like bringing that from like Abu Dhabi, that experience of being treated like a professional athlete? What are some things you'd like to see changed here to help facilitate that for you?
I mean, it's tough. It's the culture, like the way they embrace jiu-jitsu is different. I don't think it could ever match like our professional sports with in terms of like how popular hockey or basketball or something is. Like that would be tough, but just for our community, I don't know, maybe like it's tough for us to get exposure. Maybe if we did some more, like there was a time where we had more super fights and they're getting like professional guys to come here and fight. I don't understand, like maybe the money and the logistics don't actually work, but that's everyone's number one answer. Like why we don't get as much exposure usually comes down to like, I think some of it's on us. Like we should be beating the best people. Like we should be putting ourselves out there and we're trying. But we like our community doesn't always do as much to like put us on, or like if they have opportunities, they kind of just, leave us behind when it comes to like promotion, or even like, I think super fights were a great way to like match us up against people from all over the world, that like those high level guys. And I guess the number one thing is money, which is tough. Like I said, I don't fully understand, but that would help.
Do you think kind of like with the introduction to like heel hooks in the IBJJF, you're gonna like the idea like super fight shows might be a little bit more possible? Because I think that's the biggest thing. The people want to see heel hooks. They want to see the different leg lock attacks.
It's possible. Like I was when I was in Orlando, I actually went to a Fight to Win. There's a bunch of the guys were competing at it. So I watched and, we've had like similar things here, but I think maybe for us to get exposure, we gotta, I don't know, maybe go down there and fight some of the best guys and get put on these super fights where like, Flo's watching or these big people are watching. We need to go do it. So, we could have these things here and bring the people here, but I think our best chances are to go there and make waves and, be the underdog and beat some big names.
Yeah. I was talking about this before with like several different people. Like, I don't know why like guys and girls in Ontario don't have that exposure that a lot of the other people do, like around North America, because like you're a world-class jiu-jitsu black belt. Another example of somebody we're talking about is like Steve Sims when he went to Nogi Pans. Like he fought Ronaldo Jr. to like a very, very, very close match. And then he fought Hulk and he had like a very close match with him as well. And like he medaled in the absolute as well. But like, how much exposure did he have before that? Like very little to none, I think.
Right.
But like, I think it's just I think you need more media. This is kind of why like me and Aaron do this as well. Like we want to have different people on, give them exposure to like, what they do and like how they're training and everything.
For sure.
Because like, I don't think locally, like there's not really a lot of that. Like, I don't think Flow Grappling is going to be coming up here anytime soon unless somebody like takes notice. I think they're mainly like located in Texas as well, or in like other places in the US. I think you mentioned something like logistically. I think the issue is, like, hey, I'm going to go take a super fight with this guy in Canada who's like, a world-class guy. They're going to pay me nothing. What?
Yeah.
I think that's an issue. It's an issue as well, because I'm assuming on like Fight to Win, I think you're starting to see, I think, the separation of like amateur, like the amateur route and then the professional route where it's still kind of treated like an amateur sport, but now it's starting to evolve into more like a professional sport. So it's just where do you want to take it? There's different avenues, right? There's different organizations that are trying to do more like the amateur going the like, like the JJIF and like going to like the Olympics and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then I think you also have to look at how, okay, well, somebody like yourself, how am I going to make a living doing this if I can't take super fights and make money and
right?
There's a different source of that income.
Right. Well, even with Fight to Win, actually, I believe they weren't paying anyone because of the pandemic. They can't fill those seats. So they're not charging tickets. So, because I actually tried to get on the card when I went there and they couldn't find me a match. It was too short notice. It was only like a week, but they weren't paying just because of this pandemic, but you get the exposure, right? You're on Flow and your match is up there. So that's what all the athletes are doing, but it is mostly local guys because they're going to fill the seats, right? They're going to get all the people to come. So it's tough, but like even for us, like beating these guys or like even myself, I fought big names and almost beat them or almost did this, but I think we need to win. Like that's no one will remember you if you almost beat them. And I don't think that's enough. Like, I'm never happy with like oh, you did well against so-and-so. And it's like, who cares? At the end of the day, he's on the podium or like he wins the match. No one really, unless they're like a super fan or like a fanatic looking at all the matches and seeing like, oh, you only lost by 2, like that's like a mindset you can't have. Like, we need to be beating these guys. That's the only thing, and I've been close, but the only way is to beat them. That's the only way you're going to get recognized or these guys will put you up, is because you have to win.
So let me ask you this. If we're looking at it, okay, we got to win, right? Is it a question of like not enough reps, or is it a question of training methods? Is it a point of like environment? Like, what do you think? What do you think is the missing ingredient to get yourself, other guys over that hump?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think like we did start like jiu-jitsu in Canada is definitely behind in terms of like just time. But we're starting to see like athletes pop up, like even at the lower belts, like people in Canada are making waves and they're killing it at purple, brown. You can start like, if they keep up with it, that's a big problem too, is it's hard to maintain this level of training for an extended period of time. I've trained and had so many training partners that were on the path, like beating these guys who are winning worlds now, but then life just gets in the way and they got to take a full-time job, or like those opportunities aren't always here. Like, luckily I've been able to stay consistent and had a lot of support from, Josh and George and Toronto BJJ, and it's worked for me. But I've seen so many teammates just up there with me and they kind of just fall off because of this, that, or whatever. And I'm sure, Mike, you've seen like a lot of guys disappear in the scene, and you too, Aaron, like you guys train with people who had the potential and then they just couldn't keep it up. So I think like we need more ways to allow these people to train like professional athletes for a long period of time. But I don't think we're doing anything wrong in the training room. Like, I've trained at multiple gyms now, at like high level gyms. I don't think that's the problem. We know how to train. We know how to keep the intensity up and make sure we're doing everything like the smart way. But I think it's tough to maintain over, the past 10 years. I've seen so many training partners come and go. So I think we're on the right path, but we're just almost there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't think there's an issue of like, where you train is not good enough, like here locally. I think the training here is as good here as anywhere else. And like, I've trained at world-class gyms as well, and you have too. And like, you can even see for yourself, like when you're taking trips to other gyms and you're like, you know what, like this is all the same jiu-jitsu that we're learning. It's just a matter of how you're applying it. Yeah. But then I think you mentioned something as well. I think the next thing I think it needs to happen is evolving, kind of taking things to the next level. I'm talking more like from going from like an amateur sport to more like a professional. I think we got to start treating it a lot more like I'm just going to make a statement. I think we need to start treating jiu-jitsu a lot more like it locally in Ontario, and I would say in the country. You got to treat it like a professional sport. You got to train like it's a professional sport. I think you got to find ways for people to try to monetize it as well. I think that's the biggest thing. It's where you're it's like, hey, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and then like you probably feel like you're like a starving artist for like a while, where it's just like, I do it for the art, I love it.
Yeah,
this is so much fun. Why is my bank account in negatives?
Right. Yeah, and like that's happened to me. That's happened to teammates, but a lot of like for me is just consistency. And luckily I've been able to like teach a lot. Toronto BJJ has so many classes. I've been able to find different streams of revenue through jiu-jitsu. But I think like for some people, it's just hard to see because they get a full-time job and they're like, why would I do that when I can just do this and still come and roll and have fun? But because training and competing for some people, it really sucks. Like the pressure and the anxiety and all these things like add up. And some people are so good, and I train with people that are so good, but they just can't deal with it. And that'll just eat them up. So I don't know. People all have their reasons, but it is tough to make it in jiu-jitsu while like trying to compete and make it like a career. I get it. It's tough. It's tough for so many people. And I think that might be one reason. When you go to like, you even see some of the best people like training at Atos, they're living in cars and vans. And it's like, they're doing it for the dream and trying to be a world champion. So it's harder to do here. It's a lot colder,
It's hard to live in a van when it's like negative 30 out.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that like in San Diego and like California, where it's just like people just living in vans, just going to the beach, or they're going to
For
train
real.
jiu-jitsu.
It's the place to do it.
Yeah. It's and jiu-jitsu is one of those things where it's just like starving artists. That's what I compare it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like even for me, like competing is one of my main goals. I want to be a black belt world champion. I want to be on that podium. But as I get a little bit older now, like I turned 30 is my first masters this year. I'm kind of heading in the direction of like being an instructor more. Like I think about it more. I try to have like when the gym is open, I try to have like the best classes possible. I try to study, bring the best information to the students, but also have like a great class and something that's enjoyable for people. And I've kind of been shifting towards that, especially like as I get older, because before just, you know, being an athlete is very selfish. Like you just worry about yourself. I just worry about training hard. I pick the hardest training partners and, you know, I go home. But as I start to become more and more of an instructor and take that role as like a leader, I enjoy teaching, luckily, and that's something that I'm headed towards. And I feel like that's one of my goals now too, as well, is to be like a good instructor and have a great class and things like that.
Is that what also I think keeps you interested as well? Because like me personally, I found sometimes if you're just like competing, training, like it wears on you. Like, have you ever felt like burnt out at any point or like how's your experience of that? Or even just mentally, like going into like tournaments and things like that? Like, how are you feeling if you're always constantly on the grind?
Yeah, I've definitely felt burnt out before, but like one thing I do, whether I have like a bunch of tournaments back to back or it leads up to Worlds, I kind of have like an end goal for the season where you can kind of map it out. It's not like I'm just entering tournaments blindly and just like, oh man, this is so tiring. Like, when's it going to end? You kind of have an end in sight for the year. Like, okay, Worlds is the cutoff. I train hard for that. That's the peak. And then I can kind of rest and chill, maybe enjoy training, like come drill, you know, train light, but not have like this crazy intense goal in mind and don't put the pressure on myself. And that's kind of kept me in it where like I'll create like a little roadmap of what I'm going to do. And then I have the downtime, and I even plan that downtime so that it doesn't feel like you're just stuck in this endless loop, and just creating a season for myself basically, which has always helped me. And I never really feel burnt out.
So in your downtime, our dozens and dozens of fans want to know, what does Nathan Dos Santos do in his downtime?
We talked about the gaming. I love to just chill out at night and game a little bit. I like to, like, my girlfriend and I hang out. We have like, we just like to go on walks or watch movies and stuff. You know, after training with the guys, it's always like, you know, go get lunch or dinner. That's part of the routine. Hanging out with the guys, but otherwise that's it. Pretty simple. Like I don't do anything crazy. I get to like travel and do all the fun stuff with jiu-jitsu and competing. So that kind of keeps me satisfied. I don't have to do anything wild.
What are you playing on game wise right now?
I play a bunch of stuff. Like, funny thing is, I don't know that a lot of people know, but I used to play like Halo competitively. I used to compete and yeah. Yeah. The game's kind of died now, but you know, like all first person shooters I love. Like I'll play Call of Duty. There's this game Valorant, which is like a shooting game, kind of like Counter-Strike. Smash Brothers. I love the Nintendo games, but kind of play a bunch of stuff, but mostly shooters. I have a lot of fun with that.
Are you going to start a Twitch channel if you haven't yet?
I have one. I don't do it regular. I just kind of do it for my friends, but it's nothing serious. I don't see myself like you, just like that. You need to, if you want to be successful in that, you got to put time. It's not just like you go broadcast and hundreds of people are watching you. Like people build up years for that, and you got to be a personality and you got to be on, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. So it's fun to go on and just like, you know, get clips and show my friends, but I don't see myself like taking that very seriously. When I take something seriously, I go deep, and like I can get stuck. I can get stuck in that. So I
don't know where this is going to lead if I go on Twitch.
Yeah,
I mean, like it's happened to Greg King. Like he's stuck on the 401. He's stuck on Twitch. Like,
he's banned from Facebook.
He's banned from Facebook. Hey, bro, I can't even post, bro. What's going on?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, but I go 100% into things. So jiu-jitsu's that thing.
did you ever get into any like battles online with like talking shit to other guys, or like it ends up being like a 15-year-old kid or something like that?
Oh yeah, like you hear it a lot. Like, I have a few friends that get into it, but like I'm so calm, and like I'll probably be tired from jiu-jitsu anyways. I don't really get into it, man. I just mute them if anything. Yeah.
It's always like some 8-year-old kid who's just like cursing up a storm.
Yeah.
Like, no, those kids can be mean though. That's the thing. Like,
they're ruthless. They're ruthless. That's why I mute them. I don't want to feel bad about myself, man.
What's the worst thing somebody said to you online when you're
I can't say it. I straight up can't say it.
This is uncensored, so it's fine. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Oh man. Yeah, I just can't say it. It's terrible.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't worry, get
Use your imagination. Yeah.
Tell me off air so I can call it Aaron.
Awesome. So kind of like, as you kind of like, hopefully at the end of this COVID transition, kind of like, what's the next step for you? Is it really focusing on teaching, or is it kind of like mixing a bit of teaching with more competitions down the line? Again, like you said, like to be a black belt world champion, there's you have to be selfish, but obviously like if you're trying to be more of a teacher, like what kind of route do you kind of see yourself going?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to find a balance. Like I definitely see myself competing just like I have been as much as possible. I want to do like everything adult. The only thing I'll do masters will be masters worlds, because might as well jump into that too. And just go for as long as I can. Like it's hard to set a date. Like when I'm 35, I'm going to stop doing like, I'm just going to go with it. And I feel great right now. So I'm going to keep doing it. I mean, in terms of teaching, like Toronto BJJ, I had a pretty busy schedule, and I hope to get back to that when everything gets back to normal with the kids classes, the teens and some adults. I think like I could always improve my classes and make them better. So I'm always trying to do that. I'm studying, like I said, I'm studying a lot of jiu-jitsu. So I have a lot of cool things that I want to bring back to the students. And it's been tough, man. Like watching a lot of jiu-jitsu, and it's like, I just wish I had somebody here with me that I can just like try the thing on. Cause like,
yeah,
sometimes you just zone out. Sometimes it's too much information.
Hey, honey, come here a minute.
She's like, ow, it hurts. Just my girlfriend doesn't train, so it's hard. Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
My wife trains. My wife trains. Yeah. She still does that to me. So
yeah.
Stop, that hurts.
Yeah. But some of my like Mosley, David Mosley. Yeah, I should probably have. He's a great competitor and instructor. He's been one of my best training partners, even though he's smaller. He's always been down to, meet up and train and drill. And he's helped me a lot, especially through this quarantine to get my training in before I left. And he just knows a ton of jiu-jitsu, and he's super powerful. And he's like, a featherweight, a lightweight. I honestly don't know the weight classes lower than middle, because it's just, why do I need to know those numbers?
I weigh what I weigh. Fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's been one of my best training partners for anytime he's down. He's mats in his house, we'll go there. But I just see things like, for me, I'm not slowing down. Things don't really change, and if I can find a way to compete, especially if Abu Dhabi happens in February, still not sure. Like they put my name on the list because I have the trip.
That's coming up.
Yeah, so I'll be going there if it happens, unless they postpone it again. I have no idea, but I'm training like I'm going for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Last thing I want to ask you this evening, I know you mentioned like some sponsors, but like, do you have any sponsors to thank? Anybody you want to thank that you haven't already? You want to shout out your Twitch channel. Secret Lab chairs. You're going to use promo code Nate, get 15% off.
Well, you can use that on Hyperfly.ca, my main sponsor. If you want anything like that, they have a lot of cool stuff. You just check out the website and grab what you want. And it's NateFly is the code. But yeah, Toronto BJJ, Josh and George, my professor, they've always supported me and helped me out, and they made like pretty much all these things that I do possible. My training partners, Mosley, Sheehan, I can't name everybody, so I'll just leave it there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Toronto BJJ and Jiu-Jitsu for Life team.
right, we'll leave it at that. Listen, Nathan, it's been great. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast tonight. Do appreciate it. I know we were supposed to do it a little earlier, but before you actually went, but I'm glad we got it now so we could actually talk about how your experience was in Orlando and all that stuff. So it's been perfect.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up.
And I think we're going to end on a high note. I think I have the thumbnail for this. It's going to be one of the matches with me and Nathan. We're going to be in 50-50. And in the top right corner, there's going to be a Brazzers logo.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. And remember, don't forget to like and subscribe. Keep training, and we'll see you on the mats.